You're listening to the all-new CultureCast, Chicagoland's finest podcast. Welcome back, everyone, to the all-new CultureCast. I am your host, Nick, and with me, of course, is...
the Gorehound.
Hey, Gorehound. How's it going?
Oh, very, very good.
So we have a very special episode, and I don't know, every episode's special, so take that for what it's worth. So, anyway, we'll jump into our movie here in a moment. I had this weird dream the other night. Have I told you about my Die Hard dream?
No, you haven't spoken of it. Let's hear it.
Oh my god, I can't believe I didn't tell you this. This is wonderful. So a couple of weeks ago, I went to sleep and I dreamt Die Hard 6. Not like I was in Die Hard 6, no, more like I'm in the movie theater and I'm watching Die Hard 6. And it was absolutely amazing. So much so that when I woke up the next day, I was legitimately upset for the next a good day and a half that this movie doesn't exist and will never exist. Man, I want this movie to be...
Did you feel like in the dream you were just like watching it for like the hour and a half?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I finished the movie in the dream, but I got pretty far into it to where like I could like put the pieces, like when you wake up, you could put the pieces of the story together, and I'm thinking this would have been just such a great like final like Die Hard sort of flick. Like in my dream version of Die Hard 6, I mean dream in a literal sense, it has all the cast members from the previous movies, like all of McClane's family, Reginald VelJohnson, Carl Winslow was back in it, his wife, like all of them were back in it, and like by the time that this movie begins, John McClane's retired from being a cop. He's taking like this side job as a security officer just to do something during the week in some schmutzy, high-rise kind of where rich people live. There's no crime. It's kind of like a nothing job. And like by the time this movie begins, Reginald VelJohnson, who was his cop friend in the first one, he's since become like the police chief of L.A. or something. He's like saying to like, I don't know, there's some crime wave going on in L.A., and Reginald VelJohnson's like, I'm going to stop you, bad guy. So he's upsetting all the bad guys. And he decides to fly out to New York to go see his friend McClane, who's just retired, and he has like a lake house. He's going to go fishing all the time, and he's going to go out and visit his friend. John McClane's showing him around his security job, and there's this building, there's something that happens, something blows up. Reginald VelJohnson's really injured in this. You know, the rest of the movie's like, oh yeah, John McClane, I'm gonna get vengeance on my friend because someone hurt him. I'm going to get them. Mm-hmm. But the twist is, as we're gonna learn like midway through, they weren't targeting Reginald VelJohnson. They were going after McClane. Okay. And so the whole movie kind of ends up, I don't know how, but in my mind, it's a dream, so go with it. It ends up in, I guess, John McClane's like summer beach house that he was going to have for retirement, where all the bad guys come swarming in, and he has to like take them out one by one, and somehow his family gets involved. I don't know how, but I remember they were there in the dream. So basically the last half of the movie is basically the last half of Skyfall, the James Bond movie that came out. But like I woke up the next day and I was like, why does this movie not exist? I was really, really sad that this movie wasn't going to ever happen. Because Lord knows Bruce Willis doesn't give a crap anymore about acting. Yeah. Have you seen the last Die Hard movie, Die Hard 5? Where he goes to Russia?
But I don't recall it. That was with Justin Long, right?
No, there was one after that.
I don't know.
If you haven't, don't waste your time. It's terrible. It's absolutely awesome. Bruce Willis doesn't give a crap in that movie.
No, and I'm kind of turned off from Bruce Willis just because I've converted over to Kevin Smithism. And he is...
They do not get along.
Oh my gosh! But it's awesome to hear about how much he hates him, because it's, I don't know. I could really see it because I read Kevin Smith's book and he just outlined just all these, how awful of a person he was to work with. And so I was like, all right, those are some legit reasons to not like this guy, and I like you, so I'll accept it. But
I remember when he was making the movie Cop Out, they had a lot of disagreements on the set, apparently.
Yeah, most certainly.
Well, I don't know. That's all I got. So tonight, Kyle, what are we talking about again?
It Follows, the supernatural horror film that was, just released not too long ago. It was in Redbox a few weeks ago.
Hmm.
and so it caught my attention, and we both got around to watching it each on our own time, and felt very strongly about it.
Yeah, I have to say I didn't know this movie even existed up until about the middle of July when I saw a review done on the web series Half in the Bag from Red Letter Media when they talked about it, and I was like, this movie looks really, really cool. I mean, I'm not big on horror films, but I really like the cut of its jibe or jib.
Yeah,
Is it jibe? Jib? I don't
I don't
know.
know. I'm on the
But
same page.
like I was really sort of like, this looks cool. I need to see this.
Hmm. Yeah, no,
And
no, it's
yeah.
very, very. It turned out to be very unique. I just simply saw it, and it just like kind of clicked. I was like, I'm gonna go watch that someday, and it wasn't like something that I would just watch with the lights on. I'm actually gonna like sit through it and pause during the commercial breaks or during the bathroom breaks. I'm actually gonna pause through those.
Because you want to feel the full, get the
Yeah,
full experience.
yeah, yeah, and it was certainly worth it because it is really, really good.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the plot because I don't know how much widespread this movie actually is at the moment. Hopefully, it will gain a really strong cult following. But the plot of it follows it's set in a. It doesn't really say the time period. It looks like it's today, but it has the feel of the early '80s, which is probably done intentionally. And if I was a group of teenagers, probably older than teenagers, I don't know, that young adult age, where our main character, Jay, discovers that after having sex with this guy that she'd been sort of dating, that this supernatural monster is sort of following her just by walking after her. And the rules that this movie sets up is that if this creature, entity, whatever you want to call it,
Well, I don't think it's more the. I think it's more so a curse rather than the entity.
okay,
It's a sexually transmitted curse
yeah,
which she inherits.
yeah, and then if it catches up to them, it kills them,
Right.
unless she has sex with someone else, and then it goes on to the next person. But if it kills that person, it goes down the line to however it begins. And so the movie, and no one can see this thing other than people who have been infected by it or cursed
Hmm.
by it. Yeah, so the rest of the movie is just this sort of a chase, what would you say, or a ticking of the
Yeah,
clock trying to get away from this thing
yeah. I
to
mean, it
find
is
a way to.
supernatural, so I mean, it is kind of. Is it really happening or is it not? Is
Hmm.
it like all just like a joke or something? So you're questioning that at first, but then you realize that this is really happening, and we either want to see them survive it or we want to see something resolve this issue.
Hmm. The one thing that would really turn me on with this movie is that it's so atmospheric.
Hmm.
Like it has such a wonderful mood to it that you just don't see, I feel, on a lot of horror flicks today.
Right. It takes its time, and it's kind of like before moving on to the next scene, it thinks about what is happening,
Hmm.
and it lets it just soak in. So we're not just moving the story along; we're actually thinking about or why are we moving into the next scene,
Hmm.
and let's progress then.
Yeah.
But yeah, the music was certainly very unique in
Oh
that.
yeah. The synth. The
Yeah, the composer disaster piece, which
apparently
re-
he's done some video games. I watched on the DVD. They have a special feature on the music,
oh
and
yeah, yeah, I watched that also.
yeah, and he was talking about how he was doing a lot of video games before the director contacted him.
Yeah, and just the fact that he has this awesome name kind of means that like he must have done something to deserve a cool name.
No, I just think he gave it to himself.
Maybe, but I don't know.
That's my cynicalness. The one thing I liked is that you're right. This film does take its time with each scene. These characters are treated mostly as real people. There's a couple of quibbles I have here and there, but it's like it's a case of everything else works, so who cares?
Right.
And the most important thing is that the director, David Robert Mitchell, doesn't treat its audience as being stupid. Like
Mhm.
in a lot of movies, not just horror, but a lot of movies in general, when something bad is on the screen or something bad's about to happen, the soundtrack will like start revving up like doon 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 doon, or something to like, hey idiots who are watching, something bad's going to happen right now, so you better be aware that something bad is going to happen.
Mhm.
Um, but here it takes the audience intelligence. It feels the audience has an
It
intelligence.
lets us be scared out of our own accord.
Yeah, and there are some scenes that are just things happening there that are just so subtle, like when they're at the beach and they're all sitting around,
Oh yeah,
and
shit.
you see her friend come from behind like a rock and walking towards them,
Right.
and then the angle cuts because they're all talking about, and then you see that same friend like in the water in like an inner tube,
Hmm.
and you as the audience like, wait a second.
Right, and that's really where it clicked for the group of them was
Hmm.
that okay, something is legit here.
Yeah, because it pulled her hair up. Because then you saw the perspective of like all the friends, where you don't see the entity, the curse, it, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
and like it knocks that other guy, the nerdy kid, away,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that moment I was like, okay, everybody is going to believe this and we're moving on to the second act of the story.
yeah,
Yeah, and then once I got into that shed, it was like it didn't stop. It
yeah,
just kept on happening, and they couldn't get away from it. And obviously, I mean, stereotypically, you're supposed to just wait and let it come for you. But
hmm,
they're like, well, shit, let's get out of here because as we've seen in throughout the rest of the movie, it's the thing doesn't stop.
mm-mm,
And I think that was the creepiest, or one aspect that was the creepiest is that like you can keep on running, but so I mean you drive for an hour and then you sit for 3 hours, it's
it'll
gonna be
it's
right
going to
there.
catch up. Yeah, that's what I liked about it. Like the film was consistent. That the thing it just walked. It kept walking and walking and walking,
Hmm.
and it felt like where'd the thing go? But it eventually catches up in a realistic time span.
So where like you can't sleep for 8 hours anymore, and that's kind of bringing in some old school, Nightmare on Elm Street stuff
Mm-hmm.
where you can't rest anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and that is where the horror starts to build and develop, and that there's no escape from this.
No, no, yeah. And it's funny you bring up Nightmare on Elm Street because I got a vibe of like the late 70s, early 80s from this film. Just
Hmm.
the way it was shot, the wide angle lenses, the filters that they used. It had that like 80s sort of early 80s sort of feel to
Hmm.
it. And maybe that's part of the reason why I liked it because I'm very nostalgic for that era.
Oh yeah.
And it just
Oh yeah.
yeah. And it played into that so well, and I obviously that's what the director was going for. It just I don't know I totally dug what this movie was doing, what trying to do.
Let's move into the next thing, which I found to be like the immediate thing that I was thinking of when I rented this was how analogous it is to the movie Teeth. Uh,
Oh,
because both of them are sexually caused horror movies.
mm-hmm. Now just for the record, I haven't seen Teeth, but
Oh,
I'm
shit.
very well aware of it. There's a couple people I work with who love this movie because they think it's hilarious.
It is awesome. I mean, because like this one, it's very reminiscent of 80s movies where it's slow and it lets it really develop. I mean, I just felt like that they were so similar. I feel that It Follows kind of did some better things than Teeth did. Teeth did some better things than It Follows. But the one thing that I did not like about It Follows was the main character, the
Jay?
girl, because I felt like the girl from Teeth was perfect for that role, whereas Jay was kind of like, yes, she was scared, but she kind of just followed through with everything and didn't really, no, just something wasn't clicking where she was fitting into this awesome movie, or she didn't make the movie excel any more than it would have done on its own.
So you feel that she was a bit miscast?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Whereas I feel like in Teeth, that girl was perfectly cast, and she really helped elevate that movie to where it is today.
For those of you who don't know, the movie Teeth is a horror film where Isn't like the girl's vagina has teeth and bites off penises?
Vagina dentata. Yes. Yeah, the it's a family that lives by a nuclear power plant, and she becomes this disorder. And so as soon and the thing about her is that she's very conservative, where she does not want to have sex, and so she's like part of all these programs where she's not going to have sex before marriage. But there's a lot. Her brother is just like constantly trying to abuse her, and all these guys are trying to get with her. And so the fact that she has this dangerous weapon just makes her all the more of an interesting character. And her switch near the end of the movie just makes her character so complex and interesting, where I don't care what she does, it's awesome because her character is just so awesome. Whereas in It Follows, it's kind of like she kind of just follows through with the movie, where the complexity in the movie comes from the curse, not from her.
Mm. Okay, no, that's fair. I see what you're saying.
But yeah, if I would definitely recommend seeing it. I mean,
Teeth or It
I
Follows?
honestly, I would say watch Teeth first because I will. Well, then again, I've only seen It Follows once, and I've seen Teeth multiple times, and I will continue to watch Teeth multiple times because it is so fun. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely watch It Follows again for the music alone,
Hmm.
where the music really helps carry it, just like in Blade Runner,
Oh
where
yeah.
the music really carries you through the movie.
Let me ask you, going back to It Follows here, with the monster, the spiritual entity,
Yeah.
how do you feel that ranks with other horror creatures of its kind? Because obviously there's several out there that sort of.
I mean, it's definitely better than the ghostly child. That's so common. The ghostly or dead child that seems to follow everybody, or the old woman, I don't know that last one that I watched. I forgot
How does the entity
the
compare?
woman in black.
Oh, okay.
So
How
I
does
think that those are two really bad trends that are happening, where you just see the dead child or the old gothic woman. But this one, I thought it was good because you actually could see that this is an expression of what she knows. It's not what she's scared of, because obviously it's her friends, but it's showing like you can't trust anybody anymore. This is what a curse is. It's hell, and you're going through it.
um I don't know, I liked it just because what you were saying earlier, how the thing will not stop. There's nothing you can do to stop it. I felt. What do you think of the ending when they eventually did? I guess thwart the bad guy, thwart him in the pool there. It felt to me a
Well,
bit.
it's not necessarily thwarted
Well, that's true.
because it's subjective whether it's still in existence,
That's true. The film did kind of end on a bit of an ambiguous note.
right? And a wonderfully ambiguous, where pretty much it's left to your optimism or pessimism.
Right.
I'm an optimist. I say it's still living.
Oh, okay. That's not how I would view optimism, but there you go.
Oh yeah, yeah. For the Gorehound, optimism is this shit is going still.
It was strange in the sense that this thing can, like, no one can see it, but it has this, at the same time, this amazing strength, and you could shoot it in the head, which apparently injured it greatly because it was bleeding like all crazy at the end there.
Where it's really playing with the logic of this, like, so what rules is this thing following?
Hmm.
Because logically, the actions that they went through at the end of the movie, it shouldn't be back at them.
Yeah, it
I mean,
seemed a
we're
little.
just about to go into some hardcore spoilers.
Yeah, oh yeah. There are, as far as I'm concerned, there are no spoilers on our podcast. We will
Yeah,
spoil the movie we are talking about. So
but if he sleeps with a hooker, that's not getting back to them anytime soon. Because the way that the story works is that you sleep with somebody, curse gets passed on to them.
hmm.
When that next person sleeps with somebody, it gets passed on to them.
Right.
So unless there's like all three people are getting killed in a row, it's not coming back to you, and it's not going to be following you. You will still be able to see it,
Yeah,
but it's not going to be walking, following you down the street.
exactly.
So it
Um,
really plays with the logic of it, as and
there were a couple. It's interesting you bring up the prostitute because there were a couple things in the movie that were kind of like, where are they going with that? Like at the end of the movie, where the nerdy kid, after he sleeps with Jay,
yeah,
he,
I'm glad he got some because he wanted some since the beginning of the movie,
yeah,
and I was like, he's not going to get any. He's probably just going to become angry and
I will say though, I did not buy into their relationship at the end. Like, oh, we're going to date now. It's like what? Because she never seemed interested in him other than a friend. But
yeah,
that's one of those things like I'll look past because
yeah.
fine, whatever.
We're both cursed, so
Um, but the one thing, like when at the end there, he was like he after he slept with Jay, he was driving past the prostitutes. Is it suggesting that he had sex with them or he was thinking about it?
oh
And
yeah, yeah. I think it's. I mean, I found it very clear that, yeah, he slept with them because she wouldn't have slept with him if he wasn't going to get rid of it.
right.
Like she slept with him, so they both could be happy.
See, and there are other scenes in the movie where, like, towards, I can't remember if this wasn't at the end, but it was towards it, where she's at the beach and she sees those guys on a boat,
Hmm.
and she takes off her shirt and she goes in the water.
Yeah,
And is it suggested that she slept with them, or because the next scene, the thing is still after her? So it was
right.
very weird what they were trying to do there.
And that's where you really have to think about, all right, what rules am I, the viewer, applying to this curse? I mean, because I was confused on that also, and I really wanted to know what the internet community thought about it. And yeah, I mean, pretty unanimously, everybody believed that yes, she slept with or she had sex with everybody on that raft, because it was very clear that if he's going to the hooker and she's just hooking up with random guys, they've got this intention.
Like, yeah, so there are some things the movie was maybe too ambiguous at times. I mean, I appreciate what they're trying to do, but maybe they could have spelled one or two things out a little bit more. But I
Right.
don't know. For me, at the end of the day, that's just such a small thing because this film is really really cool. It's really atmospheric, very slow and deliberate, which
Hmm.
you don't get that in many films or horror films nowadays, in my opinion.
Right.
More about the mood. Feels like a lot of horror films today are more about, and you know more about this than me, but more about the gore, more about how's the most disgusting way we can kill this person.
Well, no, I don't think that it's about gore anymore. I think people have lost sight of gore. It's more
Has that
about
moved on? They've moved on.
yeah, where it's just like how can we get the most people into the theater?
Well,
Let's put a big name in there. Let's get some vampires in there, zombies, whatever it takes to get them in there. What did you think about the characters, the actors in particular?
they were fine. I mean, nothing revolutionary, but I
Yeah.
mean, they did okay. I think I liked the actress who played Jay better than you.
But you've never seen Teeth,
I've never seen Teeth, so I guess I can't compare
right?
the girl in Teeth to Micaiah Monroe, who's I guess the credited actor who played Jay.
Hmm.
So I can't debate that. But I feel that this film, that the character is just this is something that was just kind of dumped on her. Like she didn't want it. She didn't know what she was getting herself into. She was duped into getting it, which is actually really kind of hilarious in the sense that they track down the guy, but they don't bother calling the cops.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah. I could really see her in like what was that last hipster movie that came out? Paper Town.
I wouldn't call that a hipster movie. I would call it like a young adult girl movie.
Yeah, a young female teen movie. I could see her in.
Yeah, she does have that.
The boy with a weird name, Keir Gilchrist.
Is that the nerdy kid?
Yeah.
What was
Um,
he in?
I really like. I thought that he was the most standout because I actually just saw that he's in another movie, which does look interesting, where he's an internet stalker, and now he's like homebound and getting haunted by the people that he stalked online. It looks interesting.
It Follows was filmed in Detroit, and it uses Detroit to its advantage,
Yeah.
especially with the sort of rundown element of Detroit, past that 8 mile mark that they talk about in the movie. When I was looking in the film, like, this looks like a real legit place. And I'm like, oh yeah, hey, how about that? It actually is. When they mention 8 Mile, I'm like, this is Detroit. As we all know, Detroit's a shithole.
Wait, what's the 8 Mile reference?
There's like a sort of like a street in Detroit that sort of divides like the good part and the bad part. And
Mm. No, I didn't even realize that it was filmed in a particular area.
yeah, it's also interesting with this film, and this is a trope of the genre, I suppose, that you have these movies and parents are nowhere to be seen. we can't tell
Yeah.
our we can't tell our mom, but at the same time the kids have like free reign to go wherever they want, no questions asked. Like when they like broke into the rec center, wherever that
Oh
was at the
yeah.
end. How long were they planning on staying there? Just forever until the thing eventually caught up to them, or?
Yeah, but yeah, you have to dismiss a little bit of logic
Oh yeah, I know.
to get the story going, and it's fully accepted. But yeah, we could have done with maybe a little bit of just like parental yelling at them, no actual enforcing, or maybe just thrown in like the drunk or abusive parents that are always in these horror films.
Yeah, this one just the mom was well, the dad was nowhere to be seen. Although the dad did, I guess the last form of the entity was in the dad's image, and
Yes, yeah, I
which
do
they don't
remember
really
that.
talk about other than I can't tell you what he looks like when he's yelling to the sister, and then we happen to see a picture of the dad later on, which again the movie lets us make that connection. It doesn't like spell it out.
Mhm.
Though I wish I
Yeah, I
kind
mean,
of
it connected with me like right away that it was that, and it was kind of weird. I'm like, shouldn't you be telling me this in a more direct and literal way?
yeah. I mean, the only thing that didn't I like wondered if like there was like some issue with the dad that why this was a big deal. Like maybe there was a cut scene that talked about how maybe the dad was dead or the dad abandoned them or there was I don't know, some issue going on that having it as the dad would be like a bigger deal than it actually was. But
Hmm.
because the dad wasn't referenced at all in the movie until the very end.
Right, and we should have at least had something. Don't get me wrong, they did it fantastic.
Hmm.
I guess I'm just thinking of, every other horror movie.
Right. I don't know. I think these are little things at the end of the day. This was really a phenomenal thing. I hope it gets more of a cult following. I know it's tougher and tougher to do in today's world, but
Hmm.
there's talks about maybe they're going to do a sequel to it. I don't want a sequel to this.
Yeah.
I think it's good just as it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
this film works as a one and done. Please,
Yeah.
Hollywood, you have a good
Right.
thing here. Don't
And
ruin it.
I don't think it's that unreasonable to think of because the thing that is coming directly to my mind is the director of Low
Hmm.
with Travis Betts, where his films have this style which he puts into all of his movies, and so they're not sequels of each other, but they're done in the same style. And I think that the director of
David Robert Mitchell,
simply make another one,
like
different story.
a spiritual sequel, like it's done in the same style but completely different.
Right, and you will have the same amount of success, logically.
Yeah, I think that'd be a smarter way to go too. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's all I got to say about It Follows. Kyle, would you recommend It Follows to everyone else?
I think if you like horror movies, you will definitely appreciate it. But for the everyday run-of-the-mill cinematic viewer, I don't think that they will really appreciate all of the value that this is really captured. Because it takes a lot to get a really good horror movie, and it will certainly be appreciated. But I mean, I would certainly give it like a 4 out of 5, maybe a 5 out of 5 if I watched it a few more times and really thought about it. But I don't know if I would recommend it widespread. How about yourself?
I'd recommend it. I would give it a 4 out of 5 as well, based on your scaling.
Mm,
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's creepy. I think it's worth watching.
yeah,
I will say this: it isn't for everyone because it is much more of a deliberate sort of thing. So,
right, and you really have to think about it.
mhm. But I think there's just so much mood and atmosphere there that it works.
So, one last thought
Sure.
before we close up. One of the apparitions, the ghosts of the curse,
Hmm.
that tall guy,
Oh, in the bedroom?
that was so creepy, and I
I
thought
know.
it was
Because he comes right out of the dark behind the friend.
awesome. And I mean that's how you make a good scary scene is you catch us off guard, you let us down for a little bit, and then you bring it
Boom.
on and you bring it full force. And everybody in the room is just like, she is so crazy.
Uh-huh.
We see that there's something real to this.
See, that's the perfect. There's like a setup to a scare in a movie. It's that the initial, oh no, you're in trouble, the fake out, and then the real scare.
And not with cues telling you that
Exactly. This was
it's going
done
to happen.
very subtly and perfectly.
Right.
I think because the movie sort of set things up like it's a scare. Oh no, it's not a scare, and then it never was. So when it actually happens, it has more of an impact. So yeah, thumbs up to this movie. Bless you, movie. I'm glad you were successful. On a $2
Yeah.
million budget, it racked in 17 million. So yay, movie. Good job.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll wrap up here. Kyle, do you have any final thoughts?
I do not.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to do it for tonight's episode of It Follows. My name is Nick.
And the Gorehound.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. You've been listening to the all-new CultureCast, where every episode is all new. Check out our blog, Zach and Nick's CultureCast, at znculturecast.wordpress.com, and find us on social media. Send us an email at nick.culturecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, comments, and requests. Theme music by bensound.com. The all-new CultureCast, a saltwater production, copyright 2015.
I came up with a name today that I cannot believe that I'd never thought of, but it was Bile Coatwright. I thought it was just like the best horrific name I could think of, and like that should have been like my screen name or like my tag or something like that.